Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Welcome to the Man's World podcast. Thank you for joining us this week again. Um, Again, if you have any questions or comments or anything, type them in the chat. If you want to ask an anonymous question, click the link that's pinned in the first comment, and we're just going to get right into it. So the first video we have, let me share my screen. It's kind of a bridge between our last episode where we talked about, open book policy versus closed book policy. We wanted to show this video last week, but we figured we'd show it this week to kind of just connect our two shows. So let's bring this up. Okay. All right, here we go.
That your husband's money is also your money. You're wrong, and this is according to Islam. I learned this after my husband started hiding his money 12 years later. Your husband is obligated to cover all your financial needs, and that's it. As long as he is fulfilling his financial duties, what he does with the rest of his money is none of your business. I know that's a hard pill to swallow. That's why I always say, as a woman, you need to make your own money, because if you believe that your husband's money is also your money.
So that's the clip. And you get the gist of what she's saying. She's pretty much saying if you believe that your husband's money, she's speaking to the women, if you believe that your money or your husband's money is also your money, then you're wrong. And she reminds us that it's the husband's duty to take care of his wife, and whatever he does with the rest of his money is none of her business. So there's a few things. I guess Mubarak can go first on what he gets from this clip and what he thinks is right, wrong, or whatever, and we'll just go from there.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that as far back as I can remember, from my mother, from aunties in the community, from just everywhere, this was the sentiment was your money and your wife's money is like our money, and her money is just her money.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, it's amazing how certain things that you hear just become like ingrained in your mind, and it shapes how your worldview. And so, as much of a, I mean, we consider me, I don't want to say it, like, as much as a staunch I'm not a chauvinist, not at all.
Right.
But sometimes something come off like that. But
Right.
as much as I was very, very keen on the man being in charge and XYZ, this was one of the things that I just thought was that's just the way it is. Your
Mm-hmm.
money, as far as the wife is concerned, it's y'all's money, and it's her money too. And then her money, whatever she has, is just hers.
Yep.
But this is just not the case. It is the case where the husband's money is his money. Now, he is obligated to do certain things with his money, which is take care of the woman. But how he does that is completely up to his discretion, within reason. As I said, as Allah says, bil ma'ruf, what is, customary, what is, within his means as well. Because, Allah does not burden any person more than they can bear, and a man is responsible for doing what he's capable of. But we always, growing up, thought that that's the way it was, and so it really puts an undue burden on the man thinking like that, to where he feels like he has to, pretty much have a open book policy, to where, it's as if the money is here, he makes it, and then she can just, take and spend or whatever. And if he's restricting that in any way, managing that, in a certain way, then he's like an oppressor, or he's going overboard, or he's, he's transgressing her rights in some way. And as the young lady said in the clip, where after 12 years, then her husband started hiding the money. I can see how that happened, because when I came to that realization too, I didn't hide it. I just cut the faucet off. I mean, just like, I guess maybe it might seem that's like hiding it, but it's something that once you realize that you have to do it, as we said last week, you can do it, but whew, to go from it just being an open season to you got to go through some red tape in order to
Yeah.
just extract whatever you want. It takes some time for a woman to get used to that, for sure.
Yeah, and I would say, like, so everything she said, well, there's nothing really wrong with what she said, and it's absolutely right. Like, it is the man's money, and it all comes down to perspective. So she's speaking about the most common case, and like what we're talking about when we're growing up, and you hear the phrase of, what's yours is mine, what's mine is mine. Like, that was just like the common phrase, and it's brainwashed into you, and that comes from the perspective of, like, when Bart was saying that I could do whatever I want with your money and with my money, and you can't touch my money, right? And which is, again, is not true. As she mentioned, as Mubarak mentioned, that is not true. Okay. To each his own. There's an ayah in the Quran, I forget which one, that, to his wealth, to her wealth, or what she earns, right? And you can use that to say, like, we're in charge of our own things. It's just that the woman has the extra benefit of that. Part of the man's responsibility is he has to take care of you. Okay. So with that, it is permissible. Like, the one thing I kind of do disagree a little bit when she says it's none of your business. Well, it is sort of your business, because when it comes down to taking care of you and your kids and his responsibilities, that's where it becomes your business. Okay. And if he's not taking care of his responsibilities or taking care of you and his kids, it is permissible for a wife to just take the man's money and go buy what she needs. Like, for instance, they're in the house and they don't have no dinner, and she knows he has money for dinner and he's not doing it. He's oppressive. She could take out the piggy bank and go buy dinner for the family. Right. But let's be real. In most cases, that's not the situation. Right.
Now, I mean,
What's that?
now can she? Now, that is based on a hadith where the wife of Abu Sufyan, she came to Rasulullah and said that her husband, who was fairly wealthy, but he kind of was not providing at least the money for her to get the things that they needed, and he said, take what you need. So that's where the permission comes from. But my question is, so if the wife says, hey, I'm not getting what I need, there's two things. How do you determine that point of what we need, me and the children need, as far as food, clothes, and shelter, whatever? How do you determine what that is? And then number two, when you determine you're not getting what you need, how do you determine what, where, how much you would get? For instance, you could say we need clothes, and you could go around the corner to Walmart, or you could go to what is it, Rodeo Drive, or whatever they the famous
Right.
So there's two things there. When do you determine, okay, this is a level where we need to go ahead and implement the rule? And then how do you determine, when you do implement the rule, how much, where, how, the type of things that you might get?
And that's where it gets really sticky, because it's going to be different for everybody, because everybody has different standards of living. Like, for instance, I'm pretty sure Abu Sufyan's wife's needs were different than Ibn Masud's wife's needs, right? Like, there's two different classes of people. So that's where it's best to go speak to the leaders of your community. Just bring it up then, because unless you're in a situation like, okay, like you're stirring stones in a pot to make the kids go to sleep thinking there's something on the stove, like, unless you're in that type of situation, in most situations, you don't need to do anything right exactly this day, right? If you're in a situation where it is like oppressive, you went to the leaders and you're getting ignored and nothing's happening, I mean, it might start looking to the odds of, like, you go seek a divorce. Maybe we might need to be out of that situation if you can, or you go to the men of your family, the representatives. Like, all this stuff fits together. There's no like you have to have all the pieces in place to kind of do the right thing. But to determine what you need, that's gonna be different for everybody, right? I look at it like this: we have permissibility to eat pork and drink alcohol when we're starving, right? That doesn't mean, like, okay, you know what? I'm hungry. I'm going to go to the restaurant, order a big giant ham, right? and there's no water because we can't drink city water because I'm part of a cult, right? I'm gonna order some, beer or whatever. No, you eat enough to make you survive, that you're gonna actually be able to take some steps towards safety, drink enough to live another whatever day or whatever it is. You don't pig out on it. And that's where the problem comes in, is women use this as an excuse, like you said, to go to Rodeo Drive, to go like, my kids need new coats. I don't like these coats from Walmart. I want, what is it, LL Bean or whatever. I want these coats. So that's what we need these coats. We're going to get it. So you should go to your husband first. And that's the discussion you should have. You should already know what your level of living is. And it should be a clear case of where he is so stingy and oppressive that he is purposely withholding money from you, right? Purposely trying to use it as like some kind of punishment, or he just doesn't want to spend. And that's where the case should be. And then you get what you need reasonably. So if someone from the outside looks, they're not going to be like, oh, wait, you could have gotten a coat from Walmart. Why'd you go get a coat from Rodeo Drive? It shouldn't be that situation. But like I said, it's hard to put an exact definition on it because everybody is different. Yeah, it's like every situation
they
is
need
different.
Quality.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like this, for instance, if you're going to say, hey, listen, my husband there's nothing to eat here. I'm going to take $100 or $200 and, get some food or whatever. Mm-hmm. I mean, like around here, if you got, 4 or 5 kids, you take them out to eat, you're going to spend, you can easily spend $200, just on one meal. Now you could do that, or you could, buy a bag of rice for $25. You could buy, some ground beef. You could spend that $200 and you might be able to eat, for a week or two. So that's the difference. Is it really to where, oh yeah, now I can do this, so I'm gonna go ahead and splurge, instead of saying, well, if it's really true that this man money is hard to come by, then you should be like, okay, so I can get $200 right now, so I'm gonna try to make this stretch. You know what I mean? Because more than likely, if you do have a person who's not giving, then once he finds out that you that you did go ahead and spend some money, went around him and spend some money or whatever, he might switch some things up to where there might not be a next time, or it might be harder next time. So if you're really thinking about yourself and the kids for some long term, or not just the immediate right now, then you probably would try to make it stretch. It's like a person, like how you mentioned how it is lawful for us to, if you're starving or if you're dying of thirst, that you could drink alcohol. But if you're dying of thirst and you wind up at a bar, you're not going to be making some mixed drinks and then talk about, well, I might as well let me have a martini on the rocks or whatever.
Yeah. It's pretty much like this. You're dying of thirst, and you just have a crate of alcohol with you for some reason, right? You drink, but you shouldn't be getting drunk. You should be like, sip. All right, that got me over. Now let me try to walk up to the river. Okay, I need a little sip. You shouldn't be getting like, all right, taking shots and then you know what I mean? Now you're gonna walk the wrong way in the desert because like no. Yeah. And it also should be like to a point where, like, if you look at like an Abu Sufyan situation where someone's got enough money. And that's really the situation you're looking at, because that's where it's clear. It's not a situation like, okay, your guys are already poor and maybe your husband has a different spending plan of what's priority than you. And you're like, well, I need it, so I'm just going to go violate his plans. And meanwhile, you took the electric money bill to go buy, new shoes for your kids when the shoes they had were good enough, but now the lights are off next month, right? It shouldn't be a situation like that. It should be a situation where, like, no, okay, this guy clearly has boatloads of money. And it should be, to your best ability, be where, like, he actually doesn't miss what you took, right? Like, okay, we need food. He's not going to miss $100 because this dude got thousands and thousands of dollars in the bank. He's not even going to ask me about it. He won't even know it's gone.
Mhm.
But I got food in the house, you know.
And it's also, just to add to that, it's an opportunity where you could, gain some trust with him to say, you know what, hey, I had the opportunity to go overboard, but basically, the type of husband you have, how he may be a little tight, with it. So you say, hey, listen, I went to, Costco, and I got, or no free plugs on this show, not Costco, but just I went to a store and
Yeah.
got, I maximized the benefit from the money that I spent. And
Mhm.
so he may look at that and be like, wow, okay, yeah, that's what I would do. So it might give you a little bit more leeway, or might be more comfortable with,
Yeah.
accepting parting with some of his money,
Yeah.
So that's another thing to think about.
And I want to mention the other like minority view, because I don't want the sisters to all feel bad. The very few that might have this mentality when they're saying his money's my money, right? If you're saying it in a way as in like, I'm part of this, I'm taking ownership and buying into this family and what he's doing, and I know like what he spends on me and what he gets, I know he's taking care of me, so it's actually mine too. I'm part of this system,
Mm.
right? Usually a sign of that you're thinking that way is you're also thinking, well, my money's his money. You actually think about it both ways. You're not like, well, mine's separate, right? So if you're thinking about it as in a point of like, I'm buying into this system, I'm buying into his plan, we're one unit, we're one family, then this actually doesn't apply to you, right? Because a marriage is a partnership and you do work together. And if you're buying into that and you're thinking, when you say his money's my money, and you're thinking like, no, his money's his money's my money in the aspect of I know he's going to take care of me and I'm cool with what he does. He spent that money on a motorcycle. No, 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 no. We spent that money on a motorcycle. We spent that money on a vacation. Like if you're thinking about it like that, then you're on the right track, And there, yep, you have something to say? Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna add to that to me, I know we touched on it last week, but it is a thing where if a person is sensitive to, for the man and the woman, if a person is sensitive to, you know um feeling like they need to know what's going on, or they have some I don't want to say doubts, but some issues as far as how, when, where, who the money is spent on, things like that. It's actually better for that type of person who just wants to be in the know. It's better for them and their heart to not know, because then you start to want to question, and then it's a gateway to have some issues with your husband, as far as, you know, even though you might say, okay, his money is his money, my money is my money. Okay, now that I know that it's not his money is my money and my money is my money,
Yeah.
for that, I would think that a lot of women, majority of them, it's better for them to themselves decide, I don't want to know what he's making, what's going on, because for the fact that I don't have the control, and I don't have, I need to kind of remove myself from that. I think it's better for their heart. And it's a better opportunity for you to, be be at peace with what may go on.
Yeah.
I really do feel that. But I just, the last thing that she said in the clip, I don't want to forget, is when she said, something to the effect of, there's nothing we can do about it. The best thing is for women to make their own money. Um,
Oh, I
and
missed that part. Oh.
yeah, it was at the very end. It's the last thing she said, but it cut off, which I don't think that's the best thing to do, just in general. I think if a woman can, and that's the best thing for the family, then great. But the best way for a woman to make money, to get money, and to have what the reason why you even want money is to purchase things and to benefit. The best way to get the things that people who go to work or do whatever with money is through your husband. The best and the easiest route of getting money and the benefits from money is through your husband, not through working.
Yeah.
Now, if the family dynamics and the situation calls for you to go to work, or if that's what's best for the family, that's something different. But just in general, for the woman who has a husband who works and he makes money, it'd be more than likely if your husband works an extra day or picks up some extra shifts or takes a second job or whatever, he's going to be able to make more money than you can. And so it would be better to think of it that way. Like if you, instead of saying, well, I'm going to go and make my own money, maybe if you just take that same amount of energy that you would put into working for some boss somewhere, working extra, leaving the house or whatever, if you put that same energy into, getting that money from your husband, maybe you say, you know what, I'm going to go work a couple of extra hours or whatever, or I might do some extra, or maybe he's got the money and just says, you know what, this energy that you're putting into whatever it might be, whatever you might do for your husband, then that energy that you put into, instead of working somewhere, work for your husband, work on him, however you got to do it. And he may be more susceptible to give you the money that either he's not giving, or to work extra to give it to you. You trust me, men are resourceful. They can find a way when they want to. I don't know if I've told the story before on this show, but like, trust me, a woman can get a man to change his life sometimes. I mean, I seen where one of my brothers, I mean, he was the most nonchalant, most just laissez-faire about pretty much everything. And he became interested in some young lady. And I mean, talk about turning over a new leaf. Nigga became a sheikh overnight. This man had stopped wearing jeans. He had koofies on instead of hats. He was just like, I'm talking about reading up. I'm like, where does this dude come from? So I mean, it's like, now that's the most powerful thing, when a man doesn't not have a woman at all. He wants one. He'd do almost anything.
Yep.
But it's very similar, if a woman looks at it like that, like, okay, I'm gonna work and to get these extra things that I want. Like usually, if a woman is like, okay, I'm not getting these things here or there that I want my husband to get for me, so I'm gonna go make my own money. Usually, it's not like, okay, I want a full mortgage, or I need a, it's not gonna be, in general, thousands of dollars of this extra money that you want your husband to give you, or these extra things. Usually it's things that usually within his means or close to it. So to go and put yourself, you're working like a slave somewhere. Most of the time, these women, I mean, unless you have some advanced degree or something like that, you're probably going to be working, and close to minimum wage, with people who are, minimum wage type people. I mean, it's a cautionary tale. I know someone who, they had that same idea, and they really didn't have that skills. They went and was working with some people who were unskilled individuals, but they wound up taking advantage of her. So it's, you have to think of it like that. So the point is, if you're going to think about, oh, I'm going to go work and make my own money so I can buy these extra things or some clothes or some items, or, even if it's a car note, a reasonable, why you need a car note, just whatever you got cash, you should just buy it. But I mean, maybe you could say if it's a really fancy car, $1,000 a month, if that's, how you roll. I mean, you might be able to get that from your husband. That's what I'm saying.
Let's break it down. Like, let's give him some real, like, actual, like, numbers and figures. Like, for instance, and remember, the idea is, if you're in a family, if you're in a marriage, and like, is to have everybody working for the same goal, right? Same process. Everybody's feeding into the system. That's when you're going to have your most success. Now, if one person steps out of that and starts taking those resources and doing it on like an individual thing that's not aligned with the main goal, then you're going to get to that goal slower or not get to that goal at all. So, for example, say your goal as a family is that you want to save up money to buy a house, right? And your goal is $100,000. And let's say your husband we'll make it even $50,000 a year, and whatever, $40,000 of that is just for living expenses. He only can save $10,000 a year. Okay, that's him working. And now you're like, well, I really want these, like, I really want to like go on like trips. I really want to buy new clothes and all that. So I'm just going to get a part-time job and I could do this, but my part-time job only pays me like $10,000 a year. Okay. Now what happens from that? Say you have kids. Now, instead of your husband working those same hours you would have worked at your job that's at $10,000 a year, he actually could have worked those same hours and made twice or three times what you could have made, right? So now the opportunity cost. You just lost $20,000, right? Now you're talking about you just added another, 5 years onto your plan to save up to buy a house. Not only that, you put in like, okay, well, say your hours are the same hours as his. Now you got to pay for a babysitter. And he has to pay for it, right? Oh, you got, this is your job. You got to pay for the babysitter. Now, when you look at it, it's like, okay, now you're not actually bringing in $10,000 for yourself, right? You actually took about maybe $5,000 to $7,000 from him, right? And the way he's looking at it is like, wait, I have to pay $7,000 for you to get $10,000. Now, you know what I'm saying? And then when you look at especially a lot of modern couples living in the West, you see this happening where the man has a career, and I don't say anything, but I hear them talk about like women at my job, and they're lower level, they're not making that much, and they're talking about how much they have to pay for daycare, and I'm like in my head, why don't you quit? Who in the world would pay that much money? You're not making that much money. Yeah. What is the work? What you're making a little bit over that, and you're spending 40 hours a week to come here when you could have just stayed home with your kids.
Mm-hmm. I think it is some of it is psychological. It's personal. Mm-hmm. It's that what's the word they use all the time? Self-fulfillment or whatever. Yeah. But I say it all the time. It was like it's tell my wife all the time. Whenever you work, I wind up spending more money. For some reason. She'll be working like I'm doing maintenance on the car. I'm putting gas in the car. I'm like, how am I spending more money when you're working than when you're not? And so, but that's part of that psyche where you're thinking, my money is our money and her money is her money. So you don't even factor in, okay, she's working. She should be, doing, the maintenance on the car and the gas and whatever else, goes with, okay, you working. And some of that there should be some benefit that's going back in, to the family. Didn't even cross my mind. All I'm thinking is that every time there's always some extra stuff, I'm cooking and doing weird stuff that I don't normally even do. I'm like, look, and so that's something that you have to think about. I really wish that we could get and some actual women to say exactly what it is, not the women who might be working and okay, there's an actual goal there we're putting into the family, but the women who say, what, their husband takes care of the general bills and things that need to be done, but they want to work for some extra, like personal, whatever things. I would love to know exactly what they say, these particular items or things that they want and how much it actually costs, and then break it down. I guarantee you it's something that the time and energy that they put into getting up, getting ready for work, going to work, coming back from work, just all the things that go into, if they put that much, just worked in whatever capacity for their household or for their husband, would their husband, be able to either make that extra money or give them that money for these items or whatever they want. I can almost guarantee they probably could and wouldn't have to work.
9 out of 10 times. And 10 out of 10 times when you have the women that work for self-fulfillment, once they do it, they're like, why am I working? What am I doing here?
Exactly. So that's the thing. That's only, I just want to be careful with saying, okay, I'm just going to make my own money. Sometimes it's like, you don't really have to. I mean, I try to, get this to tell my sisters this before. It's like, listen, the best way, if you want to be rich, you don't really need to be. You just need to marry a rich husband. You just need to find a rich husband. So you just need to figure out what rich husbands, what they want, and just be that.
Yep.
You know, instead of, I mean, you already like, it's like, well, I don't want to do all that, but you'll go to a job and do stuff that you don't really want to do. Do you want to clean up someone else's, store or shop or whatever? Do you want to go help people find the right clothes or whatever? I mean, there's plenty of jobs that people do they don't really want to do.
They don't.
So, I
Yep.
mean, it's like, okay, just do whatever you don't want to do for your husband,
Do
just
it at
like you
home.
don't really want to do it at your job,
Yep. Straight up. And you got to be with all these things that we show you, even if we are saying they are talking about the truth and what they said is the truth. Like Mubarak caught it at the end, what she was saying. You have to be careful with the stuff that's not true or the spin that they put on it, because I mean, we should have noticed the red flag right when she's somebody giving marital advice, and she said that her husband was hiding money from her. That means there was some reason why he was like, I ain't letting her know anything like going on. That's a red flag right there. So, yeah. All right. So this next video kind of plays into that. We're talking about like, getting in with the system and supporting the system for the family. And this guy has some thoughts about how women can support that system and how men should, consider their wives or treat their wives. So let's share that.
A man should never show his wife. In fact, people should not even know you're married. That's how secretive you should be. That's not to say you got something to hide, but that's the level of protection here you should have. Men showing their wife online, subhanallah. Some even brothers putting married to in their bio. Na'uzu billah. That means you're a weak man. I don't care. That means you're a weak man because you've placed her on a pedestal. And women do not respond well to being put on a pedestal. They don't know what they're doing. Like we know women and power is a bad combination. So when you've given her that undue power, you are my queen. No, she's not your queen. Your mother is your queen. She's your wife. You, of course, you respect her, you love her, you be kind to her, but she's not your queen, okay? And that means you've got nothing else going for you in your life. If you're putting a woman on a pedestal, that means she is an integral part of your mission. Your mission is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, create a legacy. A woman should aid a mission. She should be the backroom staff. A real man should never do
I mean, he's like, he was all over the road. Sometimes he was right on it, then he would be. And this clip is like a person who's just standing there. They're just like you in a crowded, bus stop or on the train or whatever. He's standing there. He's being normal. All of a sudden, it just breaks out, starts punching people, and then goes back to being normal again. Like,
Yeah. I love the projection on this. Like, you're not a real man. And I'm sitting there listening. It's like, man, I would love to be a fly in the wall in his marriage. Like,
which I will say, and we do have, just a quick plug, we do have a series coming up. Eventually, we will do it about some of the whole, some of the issues around the Muslims and certain demographics and why we have certain type of marriages, secret marriages, misyard marriages, and all these things going on. And some of this, what the brother is saying, it plays into it. But the first thing that he said, we will give him credit for. Number one, he did say that you talked about people that are exposing their wives online, which
right.
He's right, you should do. I one of my pet peeves is I don't understand why a man will have his wife in his profile picture. The profile picture is supposed to be a picture of you, so kind of like, well, people know who they're conversing with or what account they're interacting with or whatever. And when a man has him and his wife in there, it's almost as like, this is your identity. Like, my identity is, supported, and it is part of my identity, to where, I mean, you may not be married to her, and then there was a certain point where you weren't married to her. So, I mean, how is this, just for it to be your profile picture? And I know a lot of people, they don't really think that deeply about it. But hey, that's what they pay us for, to get you to think deeply about it. Yeah. So your profile picture,
they don't think that deeply about it. It comes from something deep inside of them that they just actually don't recognize why they're doing it.
Yeah, I've never thought to myself, let me put me and my wife in my profile picture. I just, I don't know. I never got to that point.
Yeah.
But the thing is, your your profile picture, people usually look at it. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to change it or whatever, they go take a look at it or whatever. And so you're basically inviting people to look at your wife, which you have to ask yourself, why? Why?
Yeah.
Does it make you feel better? And we're getting in cuck territory here. Does it make you feel better that other people, including men, look at your wife and then think something positive about you?
Yeah.
I mean, think about that, because that is the crack, just the crack in the door of walking through of being a cuck, because a cuckold is a person who they get to the point where they feel something about not only someone looking at their wife and thinking, wow, she's pretty, he has a pretty wife, but
Mm-hmm.
they go all the way past third base and
Yep.
they're actually doing what you should be doing. So
Yeah.
that's just the first step. You get a good feeling about someone saying, oh wow, that's his wife. Oof, nice, good job, brother. I mean,
Yeah.
so you have to be careful. I would say this straight up to any man who has his wife in his profile picture, him and his wife. I don't care. Some people, I mean, it's like, take it down. And if you
Yeah.
can't do it, they have to ask themselves why. Oh, my
Yeah.
wife might be mad. This is another problem. It's another problem. Why does she feel like that she has to be, out front and there with you when you are an individual? I mean,
Well, so
I guarantee. What's that?
there's two main reasons why I perceive that people put their significant others in their profile. Because I would say the same thing to the women too. Like, why do you have a picture of your husband in your profile? And it's pretty much like, whether it's your profile or online or social media, whatever, if you're constantly posting pictures of you and your significant other, you gotta start, like Mark said, why are you doing it? And to me, it boils down to two main reasons, right? You're either trying to let the men know that you're married and look at who I'm married to, or you're trying to let the women know that you're married and look at who I'm married to. And that goes to both men and women, right? So if the man's doing, like you said, if you're doing it and you're like trying to let the men know, look who I'm married to, you are a cuck. You're going down that road. Like, you're trying to impress men with your wife, right? And if you're trying to impress women with your wife, right? That's, I don't know what the word is, but pretty much like you are, I don't know what the term is, but this is not how you're going to get somebody, because pretty much what you're doing is like, look at how great of a husband I am, like me too, right? And then for the women, I know women that will say, for instance, they're married to a man who they're worried about other women getting to. They're like, so okay, post me with you so that I can keep all these other women away. Well, that's a red flag if you're married to a man like that already, that you have to like try to blast yourself up there, like, oh, to try to keep women away. Okay. So you have to really ask yourself, like, what is the root of why I'm doing this? And if you really go down the line, it's a negative quality to have that characteristic where you feel it's necessary to post your significant other to send some kind of message that other people are getting from your profile, that when they're actually looking at your profile, they're actually not getting that message. When most 90% of men are looking at a woman in a profile pic, they're looking at her to say, like, is she pretty or not? Am I attracted to her? Not like, oh, my boy's married finally. Oh, no, they're if like, for instance, if I say I click on someone's profile pic and I see it's their wife, I immediately like get off. Like, I really don't want to know what your wife looks like, honestly. Right? I don't want to see that, because I know how men are. I know how my mind works. I know that's the natural, even if that's not your intentions, right? And a woman that understands the same thing, she knows for a fact that if it's 90% of the men that will inadvertently or advertently start thinking about like whether that person is attractive, then 11 out of 10 women are looking at your husband like, ooh, what has she got? Ooh, compared to what I got, even if she's married. So it really is a no-go on either side.
It on top of that, it for the woman who thinks, oh, I need to be in my husband's profile picture to let women know. if to keep them away, that's counterproductive. If your
Mhm.
husband is just by himself, he's in his smoke profile by himself, it's like whatever. Some people might be interested in, some people might not. But if they see that he's teasing away in his profile picture with you, the woman who either doesn't have a husband or wants to get rid of her husband, get a better one, she may look and say, "Listen, look at this dusty girl. She got him. I,
Yeah.
I get." Or it might just cause some jealousy.
Yeah.
The woman who doesn't have a husband just might be jealous and start hating on you for no reason. Why? Because you're happy. You're doing things that are inviting either someone to try to take your husband, to look at you and him together and think, "Hey, that could be me. That should be me," or just be like, "Look at this happy." Happy ass, woman, and didn't want to,
Yeah.
disrupt it. So you have to think about that. There's no benefit for the woman to being in a profile picture with of her husband. Like some of those people who have the shared Facebook account, where it's Mr. and Mrs. So and so. Like, I don't know. To me, that John is like, who am I talking to? Am I?
Yeah.
Listen, people like that, I'm not. I'm ignoring them because I don't know who I'm talking to. If this is Mr. and Mrs. So and so, I'm not interested in talking to Mrs. So and so unless I have some actual business with them. So if Mr. and Mrs. account, I don't know who it is. I don't know which one I'm talking to. Therefore, I'm not talking to any of you because it's, but the point is, you're not going to benefit in any way, not for the man and his things, not for the woman. On her side, the best thing to do is just not be
Yeah.
put out there in the profile. So, and another thing, I almost forgot. So another thing is people say, well, and I've heard people give me this excuse. Well, my profile picture is so that people, know who it is. Okay. And they, and just, so if your wife is in your profile picture and you have to put her in the profile picture to let people know that you're married or who your wife is, these are people that are not important enough in your life because they should already know.
Yeah.
And most of these, so they're not that important because
Yeah.
you would already know. Like, I don't need to see Dr. Griffin's wife in his profile picture to know that he's married and that he has children or whatever. Where that's because I mean we're friends, so
Yeah.
I know these certain things about him.
Yeah.
If I'm at the point where I see his profile picture, I have to wonder, hey, I wonder, is Dr. Griffin married or not? That means I'm not a friend of his, and I don't actually need to know. I might be just curious.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but we ain't cool like that, and it's okay.
Exactly.
You don't in the age of social media, and everybody wants to be out there like that, but really you don't. Everybody doesn't need to know your information. They really just don't need to
If
know
you're
it.
contacting somebody for like Arabic lessons or whatever, I don't need to know if you're married or not. I need to know whether you could teach me Arabic or sell me that product or whatever. I don't care like that. Yeah, exactly. You don't need to know.
Yeah. So there's just that excuse. Well, just so that they know who it is or whatever. No, you don't need to know. And the women, the same thing. The woman has a profile picture. I tell my wives, I tell them, no pictures of yourself. Oh, can I just have it? I'm gonna be turning in the back, and no, it's the same. Why? Well, I'm just looking away.
Find one online. Find some random lady online and turn her back. There you go.
yeah. I'm looking away, or I'm looking down, or it's just only showing half my face. Get out of here, man. You don't need it. And it's like sometimes will do that. They'll have they'll say, well, I'm gonna have my profile picture is gonna be a picture of you. I said that's just gonna cause jealousy, either in house or outside. Yeah, don't do that.
Exactly. So he hit the nail on the head about having some gira, having some protective jealousy for your wife.
Then
he went left field quick. He went left field real quick. And this is a problem actually in a lot of Muslim cultures. Right, with like the one part about specifically where mother-in-laws, like the mother-in-law on the husband's side, that relationship actually causes a lot of problems in the marriage because pretty much the mother's so involved and he's such a like mama's boy and everything's for the mom, and the wife is just like chopped liver, and then the mother-in-law abuses the daughter-in-law, and like that's a real issue. Like, yes, we have the hadith of like your mother, and then your father. We know this, right? My mother is not my queen though. Right.
Let's if you don't mind, play that clip again. I want it because he said about 10 different things that were just like he was wobbling a bit. So I want to make sure we don't miss something here.
Okay, let me pull it back up again.
Because I think he mentioned the queen part. It might have been at the end.
We have to go play by play for this guy because he said a lot.
In fact, people should not even know you're married. That's how secretive you should be. That's not to say you got something to hide, but that's the level of protection here you should have.
Pause.
So, yeah.
So, as we know, listen, brother, I don't know this brother. May Allah bless him and increase him in knowledge and barakah and gather him and all of us in Jannatul Firdaus. But there's a problem in the UK with secret marriages.
Yes.
And this man is saying, know what you know you're married. That's wrong. You're actually, when you get married, you're supposed to announce it. Yes. People are supposed to know. Those people who are at least within your circle or within the city or whatever, you know, you announce it. Hey, Fulan is getting married to Fulana, on Jumar. Okay, everybody knows. So this is dead wrong, and it's dead wrong. As you alluded to a little bit earlier, that there's part of this culture that is causing some of these things. But this thing, what he said when he said no one should know you're married, this is the opposite of the Sunnah. It's the opposite of Islam. Yes. When a person gets married, it should be announced, and everyone who is connected to them, even remotely within the town, within the village, within the community. Hey, yo, so-and-so Fulan just got married. Everybody knows.
Yes.
Now, what your wife looks like, who is, she's the daughter of so-and-so. These are things that you should know. Yeah, because, Fulan's daughter got married to Fulan or whatever. So everybody knows who got married or whatever. Now, seeing them and all that, this is where he was right in the beginning. Now, it should be so secretive that nobody knows you're married. That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I mean, you have the hadith of when Rasul was with one of his wives. I forget, it was nighttime, and he announced, "This is me and my wife." Right. So there's so many different evidences. Is like, no, you're married. Your marriage should not almost be secretive, or no one should know that you're married. They should absolutely know you're married. Maybe a stranger might not know, but everybody that knows you should know that you are married.
So you come around the corner of the grocery store, you run into a brother for the mash, all of a sudden you dive out the way, you push your wife out the way. I don't know her. So instead of him knowing that you're married, it's a secret. So he's like, man, he was walking around some strange girl.
Ooh, meanwhile, dudes are still pursuing your wife because they don't know she's married. They're still hitting her up with engagement offers. Come on.
Nah, this is crazy, man. Nah, it should not be a secret. This is definitely wrong.
Exactly.
Have men showing their wife online, subhanallah. Some even brothers putting married to in their bio. Na'uzu billah. That means you're a weak man. I don't care. That means you're a weak man because you've placed her on a pedestal. On women.
So this is where he starts just like, I think, really going, because he's just conflating things, right? So because I don't believe that men that are sharing their wives online or whatever, I don't think it's from the point of like they're putting their wives on a pedestal. I don't think it has anything really to do with it. Like, oh, look how great my wife is and come see her. I don't think it has anything like, oh, she's on a pedestal, right? And it is a sign that it might not be a weak man because of the way the culture is today, but it is a sign of something you should not be doing, right? But I don't think it's necessarily a sign that you're putting your wife on a pedestal, or if there's some kind of, he's putting a negative connotation on whatever you interpret of putting a wife on a pedestal. Okay. And he gets into a little bit. This is why I think is where he starts twisting and kind of, okay, if you put your wife online, then you're putting your wife on a pedestal. And now here's why it's bad to put your wife on a pedestal.
Do not respond well to being put on a pedestal. They don't know what they're doing. Like, we know women and power is a bad combination. So when you've given her that undue power.
So he says women on a pedestal don't handle being, they can't handle being on a pedestal well, and then he equates that with women having like being in power.
Mm.
Well, I would argue like everybody's different, okay, but to just say in general that women can't handle being put on a pedestal, I think this is absolutely wrong.
So I wonder, to give him the benefit of the doubt, what he means by a pedestal. Like a woman being overly praised, or being or just people in general getting
Yeah.
praise and credit for things they really, I mean, they don't have, they really shouldn't be giving credit for
Okay.
things.
Yeah.
They getting undue credit for things that they really shouldn't be giving credit for. Maybe that's what he means by pedestal, like
Okay.
putting her in a certain, like, for instance, I mean, if like, to go back to, like, the profile picture is, it's basically a digital way of you saying, hey, this is me, nice to meet you, or whatever, or hey, this is me. And so you're basically saying, hey, this is me, Mubarak, and my wife, so and so. Like,
Yeah.
and so it's almost like the pedestal maybe is that husband, making his whole identity being connected to her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, it really, I kind of I understand the sentiment. I don't know if I agree all the way, but I don't think humans in general uh do well with being put on a pedestal. That's why even Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says that, if a person praises you to your
Right.
face, then throw dust in his face or whatever. You
Right.
really shouldn't. You can praise your brother behind his back, and you can congratulate the person. Hey, you've done well, or good job or whatever. But to overly praise someone or put him on a pedestal, oh, you're the greatest, and these type of things, people don't generally do well with that. It's not, it messes with their humility. It kind of gets in their psyche. Maybe they start believing, that they're great or whatever. So maybe if he's getting at that point, but when he's tying it to women don't do well in power positions, in positions of authority, I mean,
Yeah.
that's true. I mean, we've
I guess if
covered
you
some of
say
that stuff
that
extensively.
if he means by putting in a pedestal is by giving someone unjust praise or putting them in a position that they don't belong, or like getting to the point where you're replacing what should be there with something that shouldn't be there, as in like, your goals in life or your whole purpose of being and all that stuff. Yes, that is true.
Mm-hmm.
You are my queen. No, she's not your queen. Your mother is your queen. She's your wife. Of course, you respect her, you love her, you be kind to her, but she's not your queen. Okay.
Okay. Now this is the 100% wrong.
Yeah.
Your mother is your mother. Now you can say you treat her like a queen, but that means you're in a constant state of being the prince.
Yeah. Yes.
So the prince is not the king.
Exactly.
So you constantly and you touched on it earlier, how in certain cultures the mother is constantly, like, the wife almost has to be sometimes a servant and a slave to the mother until she dies or until they move away or something like that.
Yep.
And so this is kind of where that worldview is coming in, where he's spewing that and saying your wife is not your queen. I would say no, absolutely. If you consider yourself a king, which, I mean, you're the king of your castle, of your household or whatever, then how can your wife be anything except for a queen?
Exactly.
A king marries a queen. So she is your queen, 100%, unless you consider yourself not to be a king and to be, something subordinate. So you might not even consider yourself to be the prince. If you're just saying, okay, your mother's the queen. Okay.
Your mother's the queen. Your mother was the queen until you got married. You were the prince. Your father was the king. In that context of that main family, yes, you're always going to be in that relationship with your mother's and father have a certain position, right? But once you get married again, you start a new kingdom, pretty much. You're now a king and your wife's a queen. And like, you fast forward all this where, you get down to that alliance where, like, okay, maybe your mother moves in with you and now you're taking care of her. If you're still treating her like a queen, depending on what culture you live in, you're actually begging for a divorce. Because your real queen's like, there can't be two queens in this household, just like there can't be two kings in the household.
Yeah,
right?
because I mean, let's think about this. Okay, your mother is the queen, but your mother's married to your dad. So
Yeah.
your how did your dad should treat her like what then? Not the queen?
Yeah, exactly.
It just doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
Doesn't make any sense. At what point does that wife, because your mother is someone's wife, at
Yeah.
what point did your mother become the queen?
Yeah.
Oh, you were born and then she became a queen
Yeah.
just for you? No. Your wife is a queen. Your mother is a queen. She's your father's queen because he's the king, and your wife is your queen, and you're the king of your little kingdom. There's sometimes there's smaller
Mhm.
kingdoms, and there's into a bigger kingdom, or there's stronger kingdoms and there's weaker kingdoms. But the point is, your wife is definitely a queen. You
Yes.
cannot tell your wife. It's pure hypocrisy, actually, for you to tell your wife, "My mother's a queen." And what the heck is she? She could have 10 kids. Oh, but you're not a queen. My mother is. Nigga, get out of here with that, man. He needs a good smack across the upside the head. Man.
This cracks me up because it just like you said, man, Allah bless this guy, but looking at these these cookie cutter speakers, you get someone that looks like you said, another way, looks got that Brad Pitt look. Give him a little facial scruff, not a real beard. He can grow a real beard, but just to cut trim just enough to look modern. Like you're not really gonna look like a Muslim to non-Muslims. You know what I mean? Speak confident. It doesn't matter what BS you're saying. You just gotta say it confident enough with a nice little tone, with a little accent, and you can sell anybody anything. Like it cracks me up every time. This guy, 90% of what he was saying was trash.
And that means you've got nothing else going for you in your life. If you're putting a woman on a pedestal, that means she is an integral part of your mission. Your mission is to please Allah.
So, how many hadiths and Quran ayats can we say that go against his phrase that says pretty much he's saying if a woman is integral in your life, that's a problem.
Well,
I mean, seriously, dude?
I mean, we can give one hadith that can blow this man out of the water, and that is when Rasulullah ﷺ said that the best provision, the best thing that a man can have, the very best thing you can have, all the things in the world, he could have named anything. He said the best thing that a man can have is a righteous wife.
Yes.
That is an integral part of a man's success.
Yes.
If you don't have it, and that is a pedestal. I would say that that's put on the pedestal. And I'd say I don't think there's anything wrong with within the household to put your wife on a pedestal as far as praising her for and showing her appreciation
in a way that's rightful and just and due to that person,
Yeah. But it's like, and even you can exaggerate a little bit. You can tell her that she's looks great, even though she might be looking a little dusty.
Right.
You can tell her, hey, you appreciate the things that she does for you and with you and for the kids and with the kids or whatever, and make sure that this is something that's important, and you can put on a pedestal that way. What you're doing here for me and for the family, whatever, is integral to my life. I need you. I need this for me to be successful. I need you to do what you're doing, and I appreciate that.
Yes.
This is how you treat a queen. A king, he doesn't marry anyone except for other royalty. He's going to marry a queen, and a queen is treated a certain way. She's appreciated a certain way. She's respected a certain way. And the queen, the position of a queen is that she respects and treats the king a certain way. The queen doesn't say, oh, I'm the queen now, so I'm like the king. No, she's not the king, and she knows it. She knows the king is above her, and then she supports and helps him, and she's an integral part of that kingdom becoming what it is. Because even if you look at throughout history, usually a king marries another king's daughter,
a princess,
and it joins those two kingdoms. It brings those kingdoms, and it makes them stronger, or they have their own kingdom now, and it's strengthened because you brought royalty and royalty together. So you can't put it down, and you can't pretend as if a woman is not going to be an integral, a vital part of a man's life. You cannot. And this is very important. Why some of this, and they talk about the red pill and these people that go overboard. This is an example of one of those things where they try to act as if, it's just about the man, and the man is, as we say, this show is a man's world. But as we explained from the very beginning, no, you cannot have the type of success you need in all areas of your life if you don't have a good woman with you. And for her not, if you don't have a woman who's an integral part of your life, then you are, in a lot of ways, you're failing. And in a lot of ways, you're not doing as well as you could be doing if you didn't have the type of woman who can be an integral part of everything that you do.
Exactly.
So this is such bad advice that this guy's giving.
Prophet Muhammad says what is marriage? You need a woman to get married. It's half your deen. The best of men are best of their wives, right? Ayats in the Quran, men are the protector and maintainers of women. How many different things this is a woman is going to be an integral part of a man's life, right? Just as you mentioned. So, and it's kind of like the Muslim version of the red pill. And I'm into like historical pieces, like fiction-based fact, like based off fact and stuff. So I watch a lot of like old kingdom type shows where there's kings and queens, and it goes to like the reality of their life, dramatizes a little bit, dramatized reality. That's what. But you'll see so many times where a king, and this is where he gets into it, like a king that treats his queen more like a servant, they actually don't succeed as much as those kings that treat their queens like queens, because then the queens actually, like you said, they actually end up like brokering like major deals with other kingdoms, right? There might be two kingdoms that are negotiating peace or whatever, and it's actually the wives talking to each other to actually get them to the two kings to come to agreement. But it's just all that to just say that, like, if we're using the king and queen analogy, that if you're a king and you think yourself as a king and you basically married a servant, your kingdom's not going to flourish as much as if you actually married a queen. Because the queen in royalty, if I don't know if anybody watching I watched it's on Netflix, it's The Crown. It's pretty much Queen Elizabeth, the one that just recently died, who's supposed to be Ahlul Bayt and is maybe going to paradise. It's basically her life, right? And now in England at that time, the queen was actually the king. Like, she was actually the monarch. She was in charge. But it just shows how, like, when you have a king and a queen function, they both have different duties. And they function on that, like Mubarak said, that royalty level where they're doing royal duties. Now, if you take that king or queen and put them at the level of a common person or a servant, now you only got one person that's going to be responsible for those duties, right? And you have one person that's kind of like going along for the ride, and it's going to end. It's like Mubarak said, you're not going to be as successful as you possibly could have been if you actually had all royalty or everybody being treated as royalty in that system.
So, so when he says, okay, that means you're putting your wife on a pedestal, you're making her an integral part of your life, when she basically, what he's saying is that she shouldn't be an integral part of your life. So what does that mean? And that means, so who is the integral part of your life? Well, he kind of alluded to it, that the mother is the queen. So obviously his mother is an integral part of his life. So if you, and I could go on for this a long time, I'll try to make it short. So if you look at men, okay, take a man from birth, okay, his mother is an integral part of his life until he gets to a point where he can feed and clothe and dress and go to the bathroom by himself. And then at that point in time, the father actually becomes, I don't want to say more important, but that father's importance in his life skyrockets, because
he does become. I would say he becomes more important at that point, because the hadiths about. I want to be just real quick. I want to let you go back to it, but the hadith about like respecting it's about respecting and honoring. It's not about like importance.
Yeah.
Right, because It's respecting and you're honoring your mother. Why? Because she carried you for 2 years. She weaned you. She raised you to the point where you can take care of yourself, and to that point where your father actually becomes the most important person in your life.
Yeah, and so I will agree with that. That the father becomes the most important figure in a boy's life once he gets to the point where he doesn't need to be nurtured and cared for and fed and clothed and taken to the bathroom and all those things, because then he has to start becoming a man.
Yes.
So for this guy here, and the thing that he's basically showing and teaching other people is that you're never going to get out of that stage, because your mother is the most integral. Even that, and you will see some people, their relationships with their mothers are a little bit, that's just not normal
Unhealthy.
for us. I looked at it as cultural, but if you look at what he's saying, it's like they're still in that stage of where they, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if some of these people were still, getting fed by their mother, the old-fashioned way, the original
helping with stingia.
yeah, this type of thing. So it's like it's a little bit, weird, but it's showing that it's an arrested development.
Yeah,
it shows an arrested development, and I will say that this was not the way that the Sahaba were. It's not the way that the Sahaba were. So at some point in time, this type of mindset and mentality was injected and taught to, a large portion of the Muslim population. And without going too far down the rabbit hole, what you will understand, this removal of your wife being an integral part of your life is, if you look in how the Greeks and how the Spartans and those early European powers did, they valued the men more and that camaraderie. They even engaged in homosexual activity, and they didn't see it as gay. They saw it as where it gave them, it bonded them together and made them stronger, and that was what was most important. This is who was the most integral parts of your life was your homies and your fellow soldiers and your and that type of thing. So there is an element, that colonized mindset and that Greek philosophy, and that has been pushed on the Muslims to a certain point where they start to think, well, the women are not as important, when it is not only a myth, but it's a misunderstanding that Islam says that, oh, the women are secondary, they're not important, and they are vital to the success of a community, of a family, and of the individual, of the man. He can't be as successful as he needs to be without the woman. So there's some Western interpolations there in his thoughts and his mindset, to where to have the thought that you can be, that your wife can be an insignificant part of your life and your success. And also the fact that he's literally saying that I am always going to be in need of being coddled and babied and pampered by my mother. She's always going to be my queen. You're never going to be my queen. You're never going to be able to take over for her. It's like this guy has some serious, there's some stuff under the surface that he might not even be aware of. And a lot of men in this demographic are suffering from.
Exactly. And I just wanted to point out, like, Islamically, and I don't have the hadith with me, or the Quran ayats, but we know that Islamically, at a certain age, our parents actually become more like our children. And that's why it's a duty upon us to actually take care of us. And we get so much blessings for taking care of our parents. They're always our parents, but whether it's mentally and physically, where they actually become like our children, right? And for those of you who have been through it's very true, right? The same parent that you used to go to for advice and support and all that is going to be the same parent that you're going to be like, I don't understand why they can't do this simple function anymore, right? Mm-hmm. And now to hold, and using the queen analogy, to hold that person up still as your ruler when you're actually responsible for being their ruler, you got it backwards. And you mentioned like the colonial mindset, and yes, it's that, and we find this all the time, and it happens with every religion, Islam is not excluded from it, but we had the prophets. The prophets come, they give the message, and at that time, that's the best version of practicing that prophet's message. And then as the years go by, every century is worse than the next. And pretty much another way to explain that is we start reverting back to what the prophet actually came to speak against. And if you look at Jahiliyyah and you look at the attitudes towards women during Jahiliyyah, how much of what he's saying actually aligns with exactly what Rasul Sallallahu came to go against, right? Mm-hmm. Your wife is just here to support you and support your mission, this, that. No, Rasul Sallallahu came, it's because there's not too many steps from what he's saying to like, no, and she doesn't need inheritance. She doesn't need this. She doesn't need any rights. I'm going to inherit for her. I'm going to get her money. I'm going to get this and that. And Islam came to dispel those notions. And like Mubarak said, women are a very integral part of not only society, but when you look at family, marriage being the backbone of society, yeah, they're going to be an integral part of the man's life. Like very simple, very simple. And this is the problem I have when he basically spun this to like, if your wife's an integral part of your life, then that means Allah is not. Because that's what he's like, no, Allah's the most important. Like, this is where he spun it.
Subhanahu wa ta'ala create a legacy. A woman should aid mission. She should be the backroom staff. A real man should never show his wife.
She should be, I mean, this is really bad advice. And the more we go into it, we're going to have to kind of wrap up. We had more videos, but we like to talk, y'all. So, but he says your wife should be backroom staff. And that's pretty much a way of saying that they should be servants, right? They should be, irony. And not to say there's anything wrong with a wife. It's very honorable to serve your husband, but there's a difference between a servant that may do the same exact job that your wife may do for you and how you treat them, right? The servant, you don't really need to talk to or discuss or anything with. You do their job and you give them their pay and they go about their business. If that's your idea of a successful marriage, so be it, right? But that means, like you said, with this guy, he's probably, and that's where like when us as Americans, especially, we look at some of these relationships that some of these individuals have with their mothers, we like raise our eyebrow, like he's probably getting those other needs that a man would naturally get from his wife, from his mother or his sisters.
Yeah,
I'm not saying incest or anything. I'm saying emotional stuff.
Yeah. And it's, it is like I would ask this brother, is your mother backroom staff? Your mother backroom staff? Because he wouldn't say that. It's just like if you have a production, the producer is not going to be on camera, on screen, or whatever, but they're integral. They're not backroom staff, right? Yeah. So you got to put it a different way. But for him to use that term, backroom staff, means, as you say, the backroom staff, you don't even need to know their name or anything. I mean, they're just and they're usually very easily replaceable. They're just backroom staff.
Well,
they just
tied to what he said in the beginning. You don't even have to know they exist.
Talk about keeping them a secret.
Yeah, it's very, 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 very bad, very, very bad advice. Yeah. And again, we try to point this stuff out, and I know you guys listen to us like, oh, why are they harping on this? Because this is the stuff that if you're not paying attention, you listen to it, and you're like, oh yeah, this was catchy or whatever. This guy's white, he knows what he's talking about, and then you're gonna take his advice and you're gonna go home and you're gonna lead yourself right into a divorce.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean, I say alhamdulillah. Even I was thinking about this as we were talking, and I was listening to some of the stuff you said. I said, man, alhamdulillah. Like a lot of times we see these little clips and stuff, we don't pay that much attention, and it even helped me to really, I saw much more in this clip that was wrong as we're talking about it. And I'm like, to me, myself, I benefited even from this hour that we've been spending going over this. Like, so inshallah, we can benefit some people with this, because I think it's definitely needed in this age where you have people clip stuff and these stories of the blind man was blind for 20 years, pretending all this stuff, and it sounds nice and fancy. I mean, That's what, as we say, that's what we're here for. That's what we get paid for, to
Yeah.
to bring some sanity and some reality back into this digital world, because a lot of people are just, they're spewing off a lot of weird and crazy stuff and not being checked for it, and people are falling for some of this stuff, and they're living by some of this stuff. You know,
Mhm.
just talking about building a legacy. The last guy's like, oh,
Yeah.
what legacy you building without a woman? How? I just don't. I don't get it. But you know, alhamdulillah.
Yeah. And alhamdulillah, you know, I was pleasantly surprised. Maybe I'll try to find the comment. We can post it on here when we have a show. But someone left a comment and was like, "Oh, I clicked on this channel and I didn't expect it to be what you guys were about. Alhamdulillah, you guys gave some good advice. You know, I guess you see Man's World. They're like, oh, here goes some more red pill guys. They're gonna bash women. But alhamdulillah, they listen and they're like, oh, you guys are giving really good advice. And that's, like Mubarak said, that's what we're here for. We're going to start getting more guests on our show to give more perspective, and people that are out there doing other good things with different topics that men have to deal with and women have to deal with as well. But yeah, we want you guys to interact with us, comment on our shows, leave comments. We'll get to them, send us messages, even send us videos that you want us, you know, if you want our opinion on, send a video. We'll cover it on the show. So with that, you know, you guys, inshallah, tune in next week, every Sunday for the time being around 8:30. Tune in, comment, and we'll see you guys then. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.